right. All right. We've now changed back into recording, and I am going to set this up so that you can see our speakers. And actually, Nora, if you wouldn't mind, just holding this up so that they can see Bob.
Yep.
While Bob speaks, and I'll continue to
Oh
work
my
on.
gosh. Oh, so we are gonna get back on the,
Well, you're on there now. I'm
so
still trying
so
to
you
work on
gotta-
this system.
this you have to pull up. See, that's me. And so you want to center it.
There you
Okay,
go.
all right.
So keep going.
By the way, hi, Bob.
Hey, good to see you.
Good.
How you?
Good.
All right. Now, you've heard from Nora, and now you'll hear a bit from me. Uh, and I'll start off with, I'm nobody. Who are you? I'm nobody. Who are you? Nobody. Who? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog. And now for something completely different. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from the soil, this air, born here, of parents born here, from parents the same, their parents the same. I, now 37 years old, in perfect health, begin, hoping to cease, not until death. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor nor feed on the specters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them for yourself. Well, uh, one little last word in this first reading of Walt Whitman. I hear and behold God in every object, yet understand God not in the least, nor do I understand who there is can be more wonderful than myself. Uh, from the uh, from the somewhat reticent frog to the bellowing of Walt Whitman, we have two very distinct voices, which are often looked at as the bifurcating point in the mid 19th and later 19th century for Whitman of the way that American poetry has gone. And American poetry has shaped a lot of world poetry. You have the concision of Dickinson and the expansiveness of Whitman. So let me say a few words about that. Whitman is an extrovert. Any doubt about that? Dickinson, an introvert. Whitman is expansive. Dickinson is sparse of expression. Whitman's poems are generally long and seemingly rambling. Dickinson's are tight and short. Whitman is basically an optimist. Dickinson finds hope in pessimism. Whitman is a pantheist and does not dwell upon death but life. Dickinson wrestles with the idea of the afterlife, but is as dismissive of formal religion as Whitman. Whitman's world is the world at large. Dickinson's world is the confines of her own mind. Whitman takes on society and all its forms and writes expansively about them. Dickinson is very little concerned with society and writes short uh, and and writes about her life at home and the musings of her own mind. Whitman is an orator's voice. Dickinson is that of an intimate conversationalist. Whitman was a self-publisher. Note that he went through uh, 8 editions, I believe, of Leaves of Grass. He kept rewriting his same book throughout his writing life after the age of 37 into his 80s. He kept revising, as Nora told us is the good thing to do. And that book uh, is the same book, Leaves of Grass, continually revised through all the editions it went through. And it was self published. Whitman sought to Dickinson sought to conventionally publish, but got discouraged and kept over 1,000, some 1,800 poems written during her lifetime to herself. Uh, she did publish 2 poems. It was sort of a patronizing thing that uh, a scholar in Massachusetts did in publishing them, but she was not discouraged. She wrote for herself. It was almost like a diary, and uh, and and now uh, they're published all over. So a little bit more from Emily Dickinson. There's a certain slant of light, winter afternoons, that oppresses like the heft of cathedral tunes. Heavenly hurt it gives us. We can find no scar, but internal difference where the meanings are. None may teach it, any. 'Tis the seal, despair, an imperial affliction sent us of the air. When it comes, the landscape listen, shadows hold their breath. When it goes, 'tis like the distance on the look of death. Whitman. Out of the cradle, endlessly rocking, out of the mockingbird's throat, the musical shuttle, out of the ninth month midnight, over the sterile sands and the fields beyond, where the child, leaving his bed, wandered alone, barefooted, bareheaded, down from the showered halo, up from the mystic play of shadows, twining and twisting as if they were alive, out from the patches of briars and blackberries, from the memories of the bird that chanted to me, from your memories and brother, from the fitted ridings and fallings I heard from under the yellow half moon, late risen and swollen, as if with tears. From those beginning notes of sickness and love, there is the transport mist from the thousand responses of my heart, never to cease from the myriad thence aroused words. A man, yet by these tears a little boy again, throwing himself on the sand, confronting the waves, I, chanter of pains and joys, uniter of here and hereafter, taking all hints to use them, but swiftly leaping beyond them. The subject of religion's an interesting one for both Whitman and Dickinson. They both eschewed formal religion, although Dickinson is very concerned about the afterlife and thinks a lot about it and about eternity. Whitman's very much focused on the present, the exhilaration of life. Here's Dickinson. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home with a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplus. I just wear my wings. And instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along. Whitman says, if you look for me and don't find me in this long, rambling, personal epic, we talked about epics in the past and how they say something about the society and are a projection of the values of the culture that produced them. Uh, Whitman is writing a personal epic, but he ties himself to the story of America and makes himself a representational figure. So here is the culmination. There's nothing else like this after Whitman. I mean, he was so powerful in this, and he makes his personal epic is the epic of America, a total optimist, the shining city on a hill, the exceptionalist nature of America. So to sum up, both were extreme individualists, both Whitman and Dickinson, bending the formal rules of poetry. Whitman's long and rolling poetic lines very seldom exhibit conventional rhyme or meter and sound very much like prose at times and are prose. Uh, it's the prose poem. And so here is one entry into the discussion of do you have to have formal structure in poetry? Whitman says, no, no, you don't. You don't. Uh, Dickinson's tight and unconventional rhymes and meters. Dickinson may write, seemingly it's formal, but it's not formal iambic pentameter. It's often weird rhymes. And so she breaks the bounds also. Both the voices are clear and distinct. Not having a literary not having a literary identity and only a few chance poems published in her lifetime, Dickinson writes for herself. One might say it's pure, and Whitman is a propagandist in a way for America, but can we denigrate either? I don't think so. Uh, Dickinson writes for herself, whereas Whitman was a prolific self-publisher and promoter going through many editions of his book, Song of Myself. He took a role as spokesman for himself and the nation, whereas Dickinson spoke from her own heart without the same intent to influence and be remembered. Both are remembered equally today. Whitman's writing is filled with rhetorical flourishes and flashes of images of all sorts, often in an unrelated rush of verbiage. Dickinson's poems are tightly constructed and unified by related images and metaphors that say what they have to say in a brief and memorable way. Thank you.
Should I put this down?
Well, it's still recording. So, if you want to say anything about what you just talked a little bit more about Bob Spears, we're going to switch back over to the other camera, but I didn't want to interrupt you
Oh,
with a computer change, right?
Okay.
So, do you guys have any comments or thoughts about the use of voice in those things? How does it relate to short story while I'm changing? You're looking for your students to take from it.
Well, I think first of all, I would just want them to enjoy the poetry
Camera to you.
this way.
Yeah, well, look down. You see your face?
Yes.
So do they. All right.
Eek. Okay. I would just want them, this is just before we're going to go in and listen to their work. These voices are, as Bob says, so American, so breaking all the rules. And that's okay. It's okay for them. It's okay for you. So, Bob, you have anything you want to add?
Uh, there is so much in this. I mean, we've talked about, or I've tried to have as a running theme through this, a sense of how certain representative poets have been epic poets going forward from 2500, from 800 BC in Homer up till now. And we looked at the Christian epic poets, Dante and Milton. But I think, we do come down to America, and it does come down to us. And do we think of ourselves in a society, and what do we think of that society? Or what's going on in our own minds? And is that meaningful? And do you want to converse with someone about that? Do you want to communicate something? So these are the things that you can think about. They underlie a lot of the writing, but as Nora says, you'll only find out where you fit into, and these are not the only dichotomies you can choose from. You'll find out where you fit, whether you're the expansive, extroverted type of Whitman or the very tightly structured introvert that Emily Dickinson was, and a lot of things in between, of course. You'll only find that out by putting that first sentence down. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Okay. So I'm right now converting so we don't lose our recording. So we should be able to transfer over to our speakers in just a minute. I'm like, sure. We'll need to hand it back over there in a minute. Hi, everybody. I'm just converting over our system so we don't lose any of the wonderful recordings of our speakers today. And we'll be going over to, so actually, I don't know if you'd like to go around and introduce yourselves. We have 13 people with us today. So why don't we start, if we have a little bit of time, or actually it would be great. Stacy, would you like to share your writing since you're in the room? Do you have anything to share today?
It's something that I don't know if it's completed.
Okay, well, that's all right, because if you wouldn't mind then showing Stacy, then I can keep going. Thanks.
Alrighty, I guess it's a poem this time. I call it Tap Room. A dreary smoke-filled dive on the corner of a dark, lonely street. Neon flickering, trying to hold on, but even it knows. Not enough light to see well, shadows and shapes. Sometimes dark is welcome. It takes a moment to adjust. Lack of light, unsettling. The veterans and the deserters, the has-beens and the wannabes, together at the long wooden bar. Years of wear and tear show in its uneven surface, just as they lean wearily on its sticky top. Their stories shared, the past they hold dear, boisterous words covering secrets hidden behind a veil like a loud sneeze. The air is stale, stifling. It wraps around you, enveloping you, wretched, threatening to suffocate. The glamour is lost behind the dust and decay, remembering a different time, a tapestry faded yet beautiful, old and worn as the place and the people. I feel it needs work. I don't
Good.
feel but it's a start to something.
Where do you feel it needs work, Stacy?
I don't know. I just have a feeling that I can't say it's done yet. I'm not sure.
That's
I feel like it's
very,
missing
that's a
something.
very important. I think, that's worth thinking about. That's kind of the edge of revision right there. Something that you sense but can't really articulate yet. Uh, well, it certainly has a lot of nice imagery to it. There are nice word pictures, and it has a kind of unity of flow. Do you feel the ending needs to be a little harder, or is the
I
ending?
think a lot of it is that I'm not exactly where I want to be on. It's missing a punch like all three.
I think you're
Like after officers left the meeting, Niagara Arts is the host now. Niagara Arts has joined the meeting.
But you will be.
Yeah.
And it's surprising how many poems and short stories and novels have been inspired by tap rooms and bars. All kinds of creative things have come out of bar rooms. In fact, there's a new movie out. I can't remember the name. I think it's maybe The Tender Bar or something like that, is taken from a memoir that was written about 10 years ago. Very, very successful memoir. I think you're close. And I think it's a wonderful topic. And your imagery is fine. Maybe you just need to give it another 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 revisions, and it will all come together, I'm sure.
I'd like to make a comment too, actually. I think you tapped in to like a great flow or source of stories. I think we all know that like a bar or tap room, everyone has a story, just like we all do.
Yeah.
And you saw that. I don't feel there's so much revision. I really liked it.
Yeah.
As it was. To me, I felt, I mean, like you said, you always need to, but
Yeah.
I felt it was very clean and perfectly put together. I like the flow of it, and I saw exactly as I was standing there holding this phone, but I saw exactly to me like the worn wood and just years of stories and people.
Yeah.
Living.
That is a good comment to extend the metaphor that Michelle used. You really did tap into something, but
Yes.
I think our contention and yours is that you need another draft.
Yeah.
Just think of just think of the stories that bartenders hear.
Oh,
Yeah.
Endless stories.
Set them up, Joe.
Yeah.
And librarians too. We're not
Yes.
unlike bartenders.
That's right.
A lot of cool stories.
That's right.
Well, that's wonderful. Do we have, like I said, we've had a few people who submitted some work for sending things in. So let's see, Geraldine, just going down the list. I actually do alphabetize people this time. I wrote it down. And so with us today, Geraldine, would you like to go next? Are you ready to?
Geraldine, you need to unmute.
Brian.
There we go.
Okay, yeah, so, Kelly, am I reading what I sent you, or am I just?
That's completely up to you.
Can I pass and then you come back to me?
I absolutely can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next on the alphabetical list is Jen Isaacson. Froggy.
Hello. After listening to Bob and Nora with their introductions, I think this one kind of falls into place with a voice. But I want to read it to you 3 times. First in its entirety, and then I want to break it, if that's okay.
Mhm.
The title is called The Candle Burns Dark. Stars shine. Oh, I'm sorry. First in its entirety, I said. The candle burns dark. Stars shine. Conceived in darkness. Scratch. The first glance. Sudden blinding brilliance. Colors brightness. Flickers, spits, consumption. So many things to see. A swift breeze. Glimpses here and there. Sputters, swirls of smoke. Sorry, sputters, swirls of smoke. I had to move the camera. Dimness of vision, darkness, blindness. The candle burns dark. Stars shine. Scratch. Sudden blinding brilliance. flickers, spits, consumption, a swift breeze, sputters, swirls of smoke, darkness. The candle burns dark, conceived in darkness, the first glance, colors, brightness, so many things to see, glimpses here and there, dimness of vision, blindness.
Mm.
Well, this is a stunning poem.
Mhm.
I think it's stunning, and I assume it is representing your personal experience. It's a great title, The Candle Burns Dark. And I love that scratch, which just raises the hair on your head. It's like something just rubbing against you, and it's so alarming to hear that. So the poem is totally engaging. And we are seeing what I assume you see: glimpses, sparks, brilliance, shadows. You concede to darkness. It's brief, it's beautiful, it's alarming, and I think it's excellent.
Thank
I
you. The
appreciate it.
scratch is the match lighting.
Mhm. It's also conversational, which is an important thing about writing and about poetry in particular. I feel that you are communicating something, and to hear it. I totally recommend that if you read poetry, you read it aloud, and when you read your own writing, that you read it aloud before you deliver it to the public too. But I think the attention to hearing that people who have a visual impairment, what they give in that attention to hearing is something I think remarkable. And I would, at this point in my life, rather listen to a book on tape or an audio book, if you will, rather than struggle through the page. And I think it's great to hear that. And I concur with Nora. It's a very nice work. And thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments for Froggy?
Froggy, did you like the poem of Emily Dickinson's with the frog in the bog?
Yes.
I must confess, as I was choosing things for the session today, I thought this is perfect. This is perfect. One other thing about sitting down to write and what comes of it. There's an example from sculpture. Michelangelo, who was also a very prolific poet as well as a sculptor and painter. Michelangelo had a statement that he could sense the form in the stone before he carved it, and what he was doing was simply liberating the form from the stone. And I think that's a very good metaphor for writing in general. You sense something, but you have to liberate it from the stone. And we've had two nice examples of that this morning, and it's very wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much, Froggy and Bob. All right, next on the list, we'll circle back.
Hi. I just wanted to comment on, this is Umani. Froggy, I thought it was very, very interesting. And it reminds me, going back to Nora's example of the very short piece that she did in the beginning. Well, I shouldn't say the beginning because I just came in, but the very short piece she shared with us, what, a week or two ago. Very, I don't know, I was able to visualize some areas of it was written so that you could actually visualize certain things. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, then we will give you the snaps you deserve, all the people who've read so far. Right, your
Yes.
the beatnik snaps and
Okay.
reminiscent of Mr. Whitman. And then let's go on. Jennifer Long, did you have anything you wanted to share today, or would you like to pass? Pass? Okay. John, you're up next. Are you in or out? You're on mute, John.
I think John's
Yeah.
from Massachusetts, isn't he? Is John?
I'm not sure. I'm, let me see if I can unmute you, John.
Who's the,
I have
who's
asked
the
you to
guy?
unmute.
I'm gonna mention him.
Maybe we could talk that through.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Whenever you can get yourself off of mute, John, we'll circle back. Let's see. Next in the line, we have going down. Michael Stacy.
Oh,
Did you-
Mike, that's just the one I was going to suggest. Michael Stacy.
Hello?
Hi, oh, wait.
Hi, I passed. I was
Oh,
saying-
Jonathan, no
Yeah.
problem, John. I'm like, John passes today, but we're glad to hear your voice, John, and welcome back to the group.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm like, the most important thing to say with your voice is, I pass.
All right.
All right, Mr. Michael Stacy, do you have anything you'd like to share today?
Yeah, I don't have poetry, but I have a little piece, little prose piece.
Sounds great. Let's hear it.
Okay, let me go find it.
All right. So I'm gonna, all right, after Michael, so I'll give you guys a little bit of heads up that after Michael, Umani, if you want to share, you'd be after Michael. And then after Michael and Umani, we'll circle back to Geraldine, if that works with everybody up there.
Okay.
You ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, we present Mr. Michael Stacy.
Okay. John, another Marine dared me to run the gate. Plunging the gas pedal down, the Super Sport Chevelle with 400 horsepower engine leaped forward. The speed gauge started to climb as we sped toward the gate. Everything blurred. 10 drinks and some shots will do that. The gate appeared. I am thinking, will I hit the cement gate as we go through the gate and the car explode, killing us? I had survived firefights in Vietnam with bullets whizzing by my right ear. Another time I was surrounded in my hotel room by Viet Cong while with a prostitute after hours in Da Nang, Vietnam, on liberty. Would they break through my hotel room and kill us? The banging on the door scared the hell out of me. The prostitute whispered in my ear, "Do not open the door. Viet Cong, they will kill us." On another mission, a jet dropped napalm a half a mile from me and with the jungle erupting in flames, hell on earth. Even though the flames were half a mile away, the heat engulfed us. Those experiences had killed the teenager I was in 1965. Something had died in me and could never be brought back. The sweet young man who entered the Marines had become something hardened. I would never be the same. I would spend the rest of my life in the Marines and beyond trying to resurrect my life. In a dreamlike state, we entered the front of the open gate area. Time seemed to stop. I could see the cement as we passed through the gate on my right, inches from the car. I saw the base police glancing down at the car as we moved through the entrance to my left. The Marine on the duty station backed into the guard shack on top of the cement, an intelligent move on his part. My hunch is he didn't want to die if the car hit his post. We passed through the gate without hitting it. Somebody had to be looking out for me, a divine intervention. I pushed the gas pedal to the floor and the car swayed as the car gripped the road. The turn to the parking lot came quicker than I thought. I slammed on the brakes and we swerved into the lane, moving to the parking area. The car stopped and I sat in my seat, more alive than I had been for quite some time. Every fiber of my body was pulsing. It was like I was in another world. I turned to John and smiled. John, Stacy, you are one crazy son of a bitch. I did not think you would run the gate. He got out of the car and I also did. A Marine from my detachment was crossing the parking lot and stopped before me. Stacy, the base police are looking for you. They came in force, several of them. They're not happy. The lead officer said you went through the gate at a high rate of speed. Go up the back steps of our building to avoid running into them. We were a tight-knit group. All of us were Vietnam vets. That's the end of the piece.
Is that part of a larger piece, Stacy?
Yeah, it's part of a memoir.
Mhm.
It's the introduction to the memoir.
Wow. Well, it certainly does have, it does grab you and makes you want to read further.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. I want to hear more.
Yeah. Yeah.
That-
It
that's
leaves you
what I,
hungry.
go ahead.
Sorry, it leaves you hungry.
I wanted to repeat that also. This is something I would very much like to read again. There's so much going on. It certainly grabs you immediately on that awful ride he's taking. And then all these PSAT experiences coming back. You see him as the young man, the sweet young man, as a young recruit, and how something died in him. And he's still experiencing all these terrible things after. I think it could be a very, very good memoir, very good for people to read, very good for you to write. And as far as publication, I think I would suggest complete the whole memoir, and then shape it and revise it. And I think it's perhaps easier to get agents now than it used to be. It used to be a pretty closed shop. I think now you would have to be careful going online, but I do see many, many solicitations by agents, which is quite unusual. You might get lucky that way. I would not discourage you from looking for an agent. It's always been hard. But then I also, if you at some point become discouraged, I also would recommend self-publication. If you reach a point where you can't see any other option, I think this is going to be a very powerful memoir. You're obviously a good writer, and so just keep throwing things out there. I know you're kind of interested, I believe, in getting an agent. Writers groups might be able to help. Word of mouth. Writers conferences might be able to help you. But keep in touch.
Thank you.
Just a little bit about the agent. It's easier, but what easy in a sense that you can find a lot of them online. But again, we live in a selling culture, and a lot of the people who present themselves as agents are really trying to solicit you rather than the other way around, which is the best route for finding an agent. And that's almost every area of life has solicitors who will claim the skill and ability, but may not have it. So you need to really research the agent if you do find one online. And the other thing is, one of the flags is if they want some money from you up front, so that I can, so that I can review your work, send me a couple $100. Red flag,
Right.
red
Right.
flag. So anyway, but I think somewhere, somehow you will get this published because you obviously have the commitment, you've got the skill, and I think you've got the confidence in yourself. So so it will happen, but it may happen in a way that that you can't anticipate right now.
People are very reluctant to share agents. I mean, I think you could ask somebody who has published something, would you give me the name of your agent? That person might not do it.
Yeah.
It's very rare. I think that people will share agents. It's a very weird situation, but if you could get somebody who discovers you and recommends an agent, that has happened to me. In fact, I had a lifetime agent for many, many years, a wonderful agent. Just because someone came to a reading I was giving and said, hey, I've got a great agent. Would you like me to give him your name? This was so stunning to me, and it worked out, and the agent took me on. So things happen, as Bob says, in very strange ways. But if you can get somebody who believes in you and knows an agent, or knows somebody who knows an agent, these things can happen. So please don't be discouraged.
And get into.
Make a comment as in from an editor's point of view.
Sure.
I spent many years this is Kelly speaking right now. I spent many years as an acquisitions editor for a publishing house, and worked with many acquiring agents, as well as doing my own acquisitions by seeking out potential authors. Some of the best advice from an editor's point of view is if you read the books you want to write, take a look. If you know that you're looking for something, go and find out who published that book. That's your best bit of advice. If you're looking for a memoir on war, if you're looking for a family memoir, if you're looking for a book of poetry, step one is take the books you love the most, open them, and read the front cover.
Great.
Who published it? And often in the acknowledgements, it will tell you who your agent is.
Yes.
And also, if you visit their website of the publishing house, it'll tell you how they want you to submit your work. If you don't follow those rules, they don't want to talk to you.
It's good advice, Kelly.
So
Yeah, it's great advice on everybody's part.
so those are like some of the simple steps to help you find an agent. Is a little bit of due diligence, but trust me, the publishing houses want to find you. And especially if you're writing, because some of the best writers never turn in their work, right? So if you have a heart of it, and like I said, and we're very lucky to have two authors on our panel today who do it from a different perspective. So, and we have other folks, and as we go on, we've also had people who self-publish as well as publish traditionally. So thank you very much for sharing. And remember, keep that in mind in the back of your head that you always have the potential to share your work. So on that note, we're just gonna, if everyone's all right with that, maybe we'll have to do a whole session just on publishing towards the end.
That's a good idea.
But before we do, let's go on to our next speaker, which is Umani. Umani, you're up.
Hello.
Lovely name, by the way.
Thank you. So I had two poems, but I was sort of teetering on whether I wanted to pick up where I left off, and I decided I'll just pick up where I left off last time with this piece. And I just need to pay close attention to that final paragraph, because that is the point in which I'm trying to decide if this is the end of the quote unquote story, or if it's the beginning of a sort of historical historical story, fiction. Okay, so for those of you who were online last week, I'm just gonna go into one section of the, where I left off. And that was in the back room of a little candy shop, where she spends her time imitating gestures of the people that she watches on the black and white television set. All the while, she is intensely aware of the explicit rules uttered from her mama, who is sleeping in the room's corner. Maria, keep the noise down. Can't you see I'm trying to get some sleep? Or she yells, sit your narrow self down and stay still for once in your life, or else. In today's lingo, domestic engineer, a fancy terminology, better defines a purposely cheerful stay-at-home mom of yesterday. Maria's mother is neither. She is stuck in a world of discord and sorrow, a woman who will raise 5 children with very little support. Oh, well, Maria thinks as she flings her body into the softest chair in the room. Maria's youth gives her plenty of time to wish upon a star and use her very vivid imagination even while sitting. Watching television neither strengthens nor suppresses her imagination before she can learn to read. Shh, let's put on our pretend clothes, she whispers to her younger sister sitting, waiting. But don't put on Mama's high heel shoes, because those are her Sunday go-to-meeting shoes. Over frail bodies, they slip on Mama's house dresses. Maria added a large cardigan sweater over her like a mink coat. Oh, what fun pretending to be someone else, moving freely, mimicking sunny lyrics that bring amusement to her dreary surroundings. Her laughter channels hope, hope channels aspirations, morphing memorable scenes that conform positive sentiments to her psyche. Figures crisscrossing the screen seem bigger than the life Maria's familiar with. Dancing to the tune of Singing in the Rain while gliding and prancing across the cramped floor space. They quietly, except for the heavy breathing, they mouth the words to the song. In the mind of children, they were on center stage of a very live performance. Unfortunately, no matter the day or night, noisemaking was unacceptable in this home, where Mama slept Maria's youthful hours away, and her father made his intermittent checkups on his inventory. This, however, does not deter Maria from her role play or hamper her intent to pursue her transitory stardom. She glides smoothly and effortlessly across the floor like Gene Kelly or Fred Astaire. Oh, what a time and what fun. Maria learns later in her life that she grew up in an era of jazz and theatrics, that she was experiencing the flavor of music, most forms of dance, romantic comedy, and light drama by outstanding performers. What she didn't see behind the facade of certain television stations and the veneer of safety at home, for what it was worth, was the constant brew of domestic civil unrest. That's it, y'all.
I think it's good when there's silence because it means that people were listening and waiting for the next thing to come.
I hope so.
Listening intently. It was. I wish I had last week's right in front of me. I remember last week's, but to see it all in one piece would be wonderful. But this description of child, I won't use the word abuse. I would say child neglect. Is so beautifully done. The child's imagination, watching all these wonderful performers, hearing their music, pretending to be part of it. You have captured it beautifully. And I don't know whether this is a long story or if this is the beginning few chapters of the book. Maybe you don't know yourself where you're heading with this. Michelle, what do you think about this?
I like the idea that you're portraying like life as a performance. And we're kind of all, well, you know what Shakespeare said,
All the world's a stage.
all the world's a stage.
Oh.
And I think you're portraying that quite beautifully, that even a child knows this, that she's modeling after watching others on the TV and trying to make things better. Even, I mean, you know, you're a writer yourself, how you bring creativity in your life and to make it better. Like all of us see the arts makes life a better place, even for the children who are, you know, abused or neglected, whatever. So many children you can, you know, read about during the Holocaust or anything, they still had hope because of their imaginations and because I think such as what you're creating there in your story. I really enjoy that a lot.
Do you think it's linked? Is it a continuation of last week's, or is it a separate scene? Reason I mentioned that, are you doing scenes or are you doing a continuous narrative right now as you think about it?
Hi, I had to unmute myself. What I read is just short of 2 paragraphs. I started, no, actually 3. Can you ask that question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Are you creating, do you think, a continuous narrative, or are you kind of quasi poetically setting up a series of scenes, like scenes from a childhood or whatever? You know, do you see any development in this, or are you really concerned about capturing the scene of the moment?
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I think you defined it just right, Bob, in saying setting up scenes. Because in my mind of minds, I can see this going into a larger piece, developing it sequentially by years gone by, and how the family walked through different times in history of events, societal events. So I could see that happening because the add-on to this, I go into just to remind people of that time when certain performers were very, celebrities were very pronounced, but so was the strife that we were in at that, in certain parts in that era. So I can see it as a longer piece, just trying to figure out how to develop it into a longer piece.
You know, we've often talked, I think Michelle has mentioned before that, you know, from reading you get ideas. One thing that if you're thinking of it as a series of scenes sequentially, which would make this a very nice piece, I think, a very unusual piece. Look at an author that people don't read anymore, but did just that in his novels, John Dos Passos, in what is called the USA trilogy. Right after World War I, he put together a whole bunch of scenes, and you know, they're disconnected narratives, but they give you a whole sense of what was going on in the society at that time. And I think maybe this might be something that would, you know, not to copy, but to give you some ideas of how to put scenes together into something that can stand as a narrative, but isn't conventionally developed as a narrative.
I actually like that idea. Could you put in chat that I have the title that you quoted, but
Yes, John Dos Passos, DOS, and then the second word, PASSOS. John Dos Passos. The book, there are 3 books in this series called the USA Trilogy. And it's a very interesting work. I think one's called The Big Money. You can pick up any of them. And, you know, really, it's a remarkable thing. I mean, people try to create a sense of the age. Well, he created a sense of the age, not as a singular developed narrative, but as a series of scenes. And he even put in snippets of newscasts, of popular songs. And that's what made me think of it in your case, because he has a lot of snippets of popular songs that he keeps loading into that, and titles of movies, and it's something of what you're about, I think.
Wonderful. We look forward to hearing a little bit more as that progresses. And we have one more reader today before we wrap up for the day and start thinking about the day that spring has come. So Geraldine, you are our last reader for today.
Okay, I've been struggling between 2 pieces. One I'm very emotionally attached to. And so but they're kind of short. Can I do them both? Or
Sure, as long as we have time.
Okay, I heard a title of a piece called The Weight of Words. And I've been, you know, kind of playing with that. I usually write poetry, but this is like a journal entry. It says, stage 4 cancer, like a weight on my chest, pressing out the very air from my lungs, causing my mind to splinter into an endless string of thoughts, none connecting to the other. Rare cancer, like some savory piece of an heirloom vegetable, something special, something to be treated with care. Not common, terminal. Conclusion to what? End of what? Fatal? What is she saying? White blood cells. What is she saying? Stage 4 cancer, she repeats. It's terminal, she whispers. What is she saying? Words are spilling from her lips, and I want to push them back into her mouth. Close her lips tight, so tight that no words can escape. I need her to stop talking, to be quiet, so the truth can stop standing on my chest. My mind has been shattered into many tiny pieces, and my heart is confused by the many messages it is sending. Questions are multiplying so fast, my throat starts to itch. Questions, what should I do? Should I scream? Should I cry? Should I just listen? I am not in control of my mouth, my ears, or my stomach. My mouth searches for sound, any sound. My ears are itching. The sound of her words make me want to scratch them out of my ear. Her words are in my stomach, making me nauseous. Rare cancer, stage 4, terminal. The weight of her words are crushing. My sister, my powerful, too strong sister, is dying. The weight of her words are too heavy to hold. And that's the end of that one. The next one is called Content with Here. I'm not in a hurry to get where I'm going. I just want to enjoy where I am. I want to sit in this moment called here. Here is my healing place, my place of restoration, my place of stillness, the place where I can listen to the voice of my Father. Here is the place where I lose pride. Here is where I lose pride. Here is the place where I reject fear. I love it here, and I am in no hurry to leave here. I have an appointed time here, a set aside time to allow here to prepare me for when I get there. Here is my gift, my place of confirmation. Here is meant to prepare me, and I am willing to stay here until I am called out. And that's the end. Oh, I don't know what happened. So
Geraldine,
that-
I think this is Froggy. I think even though they're two separate pieces, they belong together because one is your inner voice wrestling with the reality, and the other is your soul struggling to accept and find peace within while dealing with the situation.
Wow. Thank you, Froggy.
Jonathan, you're muted.
Stacy? Do you have any comments, Stacy?
Am I back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
John, you're back.
yeah, sorry about that. I just felt like the two pieces were related. Definitely. I liked it.
Wow.
Mhm.
I think this is extremely accomplished work. I would love to see, it's Geraldine, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I would love to see Geraldine have a book of poetry, if that is her intent. The first one is excruciating to hear. Amazing imagery, wanting to scratch those words right out of her ears, she says. Extremely powerful. The second one, a much more joyful poem. Beautiful choice of words. I am extremely impressed with the quality of the work that we're hearing. It's simply, to me, amazing. But Geraldine, I hope that you, if poetry is if this is your chief interest, for heaven's sake, pursue it. Think about assembling a group of your poems. I don't know if you've ever been to a poetry reading. I think others would love to hear you recite these poems. But I certainly encourage you to continue to write. As I say, this is accomplished work. This is very, very good. Stacy, did you have something to comment about?
just, I'm at a loss for words to say what I'm feeling about it. You know,
Yes.
Both of them were
Yeah.
very. I don't know, I have a lot of feeling, but I don't know
It's
how to
hard, they
express it.
can't, the microphone's not picking you up with mask on.
I don't know how to express what I'm feeling.
Yes.
There's a lot of feeling there from both pieces. but
Yes.
I don't have the words to express what it is.
Yeah.
I have the same problem, Stacy. I mean, it hits kind of close to home. My wife died of cancer, and it was a long battle for a year. And it really is powerful. And about the only thing I can say that, you know, is maybe a bit oblique to this, but the Buddha talked about fears, and I think, you know, there's something about fears in this that that's very powerful. The Buddha said there are 5 major fears in life, and one of them is fear of death. The other is fear of illness. The other is fear of loss of livelihood. The fourth one is fear of losing your mind. And the fifth one, interestingly enough, we've conquered here, which is the fear of public speaking. so, so they're really that I mean, why the Buddha had to say that of all things, you know, but yes, and I think that something of a visual disability helps you overcome that.
Oh, yeah.
So that was funny.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question here. I'm still trying to decipher. I can read the definitions and hear what they're saying, but when I actually hear a piece to decide whether or not it's a very long poem or prose. So Geraldine, what do you, your 2 pieces, what do you categorize those pieces as?
The presentation that you guys did, I don't remember the lady's name when you were, or which one of you were saying, I throw the rules of writing in order for me to succeed in writing. I throw the rules of writing out. And so I don't think of whether it's a poem or whether it's a piece of prose. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or whether that's a bad thing. So I don't know how to answer that question. I have voices that are in me that I allow to get out. And once they're out, I don't know what to call them. It's just voice complete. I don't know if that makes sense. It's voice complete. And that's one of the things I think I would like to learn from this group. And what I got from you guys, your first presentation was to throw the rules out.
Mm-hmm.
And then just,
actually, that was Nora had said, was it last week or the week prior? And I thank you both for that, because I'm beginning to realize that may be one of the things that are holding me back. I don't know about if anybody else feel that way. It's just always going back to what Nora described as high school. What did you say, Nora? High school rules or something?
I can't remember.
But yeah, Geraldine, I really enjoy those. And I do appreciate that we can talk about those things, sickness and death, and you know, not that we want to make everybody feel bad, but I mean, this is reality we're all facing, that's making it just make us all know that we're each human, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, you mind if for me, a long time ago, I had to throw out the rules of writing because it, like even in my college and my high school days, it stifled me. And even now, that was my hesitation with really even joining the group. And that was kind of one of the reasons why I was really kind of quiet today, just to listen and to learn. I don't want to be an arrogant writer and think I know it all. And, all of there's always room to learn. And one of the things that was reaffirmed for me today, I think even when I teach writing, because I did teach like creative writing to children, the first thing I said to them was throw out everything you've ever learned about writing, your grammar, your spelling, any of that other stuff. And just really, what is it that you have in your belly that needs to be said? And just put those words on the paper. And then after you put those words on the paper, we can work with it. And I kind of hesitated with reading the cancer piece because it is very emotional. But I feel that my purpose as a writer is to give voice to things like that. So, that's kind of like where I'm coming from. Had to do it today, didn't want to do it, but it was screaming. So I'm done.
Geraldine, I heard it as poetry, and others here may have heard it as
Ditto.
as prose.
Yeah.
And you heard it as poetry.
Yeah.
But I think you can just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. Accumulate it. You may come to other decisions about it. But to me, it was a very, very, very good poetry.
There's one rather, I don't know if it's a humorous comment, but we were talking about publication before, and I forget what writer who said this. He said, there are so many fine things in poetry that people don't read because of the lines and everything and the separations, and said people would probably read a lot more poetry if it were written as prose. So there's an interesting point in that you don't have to lineate it. That when we get to the poetry section, I'll talk about the value of lineation, but you can say a lot, and it doesn't have to be meter and rhyme, but the lineation means a lot. And but people, if you can get people to relate to what you're saying, it really, that's the point where the poetry and the prose merge. And we've talked a lot about that. But yes, to the specific point here, I really do think it's poetry, and it's very powerful poetry.
Do you have time for one more comment?
Sure.
I was thinking Geraldine mentioned, I believe she said she teaches creative writing to children.
Oh, she has.
She has.
Yeah.
And children, this is so interesting because I used to go out to the school where my children attended, and when children begin to draw, they are completely, absolutely liberated as far as color. There are no rules for a child. But as you go through a school where they put the art on the walls, you notice from each class as they get older, they begin to conform. And by high school, they are framed and they are they're totally different from the freewheeling art of children. And perhaps writing is like that too. So I someday when we have, or some moment when we have time, Geraldine, I hope you will talk a little bit more about that, what you observe in the children that you taught. That would, to me, be very interesting.
Nora, can I just, to summarize, do you mean like seeing someone's, like a child's artwork as opposed to when they're in kindergarten to opposed if they kept it up to high school and how that has changed? Is that what you mean?
Yes, I'm just saying that when you look at a child's drawings, you see the little house, you see the bright sun in the sky, everything's happy. But it's so liberated. The child has no rules to go by and they just express pure emotion. But then I noticed in school when I would walk along, they became more conformist.
Yeah.
which is, that isn't all wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you see the child's, that wonderful creativity we have as children suddenly being taught a little bit how to conform, become a little more ordinary perhaps.
Yeah.
And some of our best artists are still freewheeling children.
Yeah, Wordsworth, the poet, early 19th century, William Wordsworth talked about the prison house that descends upon the child. The child is almost from heaven until the world creates a prison house around him or her. And there is something to that, you know. I think of when you look at a child's drawing, you see what the child notices and what's important. My granddaughter, 20 years ago, did a drawing of a horse. And what was very clear was that the horse's knees were very large and knobby. And so, you know, you look at that and you say, I've never noticed a horse's, you know, as a, you know, as an adult, you said, I've never noticed that before, how a horse's knees really look. And even in that primitive kind of rendering of the horse's knee, you know, a poem or a good artwork makes you notice something that you had not paid attention to before. And it's something that that's to be prized and is lost, because as an adult, we look at a horse and we think of the form of the horse and everything. You know, it's not a real noticing of the features, or, you know, so children do notice things, and it's good to see what they notice. And hopefully we all go through life noticing things that make life worth living.
Or
And it's-
Bob, this is Froggy, are the knees more prominent on the horse because of this perspective view of the child?
Yes.
The knees are a lot closer than,
That's true.
you know,
Yeah.
everything else is just huge.
Yes. All
Good
of that.
observation, Froggy.
Right, it's all our point of view.
And
right?
a child's sense of play is so important to artists of every kind. That playful sense that survives. Artists seem to retain that.
Think of the cave walls at Lascaux in France. You have handprints on the wall. You have the equivalent of the knees of the horse. You have these animals being hunted, and the animals look like children's drawings. And, you know, that was from, I forget, that's about 6,000 years ago, maybe 12. I'm not, yeah, well, it was after the Ice Age, so it's after 12,000 years ago. But yeah, I mean, you can see this where, you know, people who are close to nature and observe things are, you know, observe things as children do, without the prison house of internet and automobile and roadways and big box stores and all these things which confine the poetic awareness rather than expand it.
Right. Well, I'm like, speaking of the box we live in, I'm like, you guys are welcome to stay in genuine. And of course, you can always reach out and comment to each other in the Google forum if you want to continue. But for today's session, it's time to go. So hopefully we'll see you all here again next week. I'll be joined again. And hopefully you'll think a little bit about finding your own voice, discovering your own perspective, and sharing that with others. So make sure you're submitting some work if you'd like it to be considered for publication in our upcoming works, as well as created into an audiobook. So if you have not submitted your work, please send it to kelly@thenac.org. That email has been sent to all of you. or you can submit it through the Google Classroom if that's easier for you. Whatever works is wonderful by my stretch of imagination. So on that note, goodbye for today. I'm like,
Thank you.
Thanks.
bye, everybody.
Bye.
I'm like,
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Nora.
Yes, thank you,
Oh,
Sarah.
Therese, good to hear you.
I know, everybody, I'm like, bye.
Oh,
everybody.
yes,
I heard
have-
these voices.
Yes, yes. Have you been on the whole time, Therese?
I have been on the whole time and I was
Good.
almost going to read a poem, but this time, well,
What?
yes, it was meant to put off till next time.
Good.
Good, good,
Okay.
Can we
Okay,
start with
thank you
next
so
time?
much.
So Teresa, does that mean we can start with you next time?
Okay, that would be fine.
All
Kelly,
right.
you're still recording.
Oh, I suppose I should stop. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day.
Yes, you all enjoy your
Okay.
holiday. Enjoy your Easter.
Oh, yeah, that's
Happy Easter.
right. Happy Easter, everyone.
You
Next
too.
week-
Thank you.
next
Thank
week